This is chapter number 9, Women, Caste, and Reform. Now comes girls begin going to school. Now, this seems somewhat surprising to you. You'll say girls are going to school. What is the new thing? But if I take you 200 years back, this was a big task, big job. All the reformers which you are witnessing here, all of them, almost all of them, they thought that in order to improve the condition of girls and women, it becomes very necessary that these girls should be educated, or education has to be given to the girls, to the women. So now you see here Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. So he opened schools in Calcutta for girls. So there are various other reformers also who established school. So when these schools were opened at the first time, I'm talking about mid 19th century, around 1850 I'm talking about. So when these schools were there or they were opened, you know, the families were or the society were concerned. First of all, the girls and women would do all the domestic duties. So if they are going to study or they are getting educated, they might not get time for the domestic duties, cleaning and cooking, etc. So they will be taken away from the domestic duties, and once they have to go to school, they will go through or pass through some public places. There will be good men, there will be bad men, right? So in this path en route the school, there will be different kind of people they will have to face. Okay, some of them may make them corrupt. Some of them may influence them in a good way or a bad way. So they felt that girls should not be in public places. They should be kept away from the public spaces. So this was a real worry of the society, because at this time it was really there. Today also women feel quite unsafe. At that time you might wonder, you can imagine how the things were. So people like the fathers and the husbands who were quite liberal, they want their girls and women to study. They also get their women or girls home tutored. So they gave the education in home only at this time. I'm talking about mid 19th century. Okay, and some of the women who had this eagerness or love or an intention to study, to learn, to read, to write, so they took this initiative. I'll take the name of Raj Sundari Devi. Raj Sundari Devi. Now she, by herself, in the light of lamp, in the light of candle, you will not, if you lit a light, can you imagine you will read and write? You will learn your whole syllabus? No. So reading, writing, many women they did secretly, and Rajsundari Devi, she wrote a book, Amar Jeeban, and this Amar Jeeban became so famous. So this shows what was the plight and distress as far as education was concerned for these women. If I take you to the latter part or latter half of the century, I'm talking about 19th century only, there were various schools for girls established by Arya Samaj in Punjab. We have talked about Arya Samaj, and Arya Samaj was in this Punjab. They opened the school, and Jyotirao Phule you see here, he established school in Maharashtra. Okay, there were big households also, like aristocratic, kuleen work, abhijat work. So in northern India, the Muslim household, some men and fathers, they also wanted to get their kids educated. For them, the women would come to the house and they will teach them. Okay. Now, when the education is the problem, or not given properly to everyone, or they don't have any right to education at that time, so what will happen? You see here, Sayyid Mumtaz Ali. He did what? The same thing which Raja Ram Mohan Roy did. Roy took the verses or took the content from ancient text, and then they showed the people that whatever we are doing is wrong. This is not the our ancient text says. So the same strategy was applied. There are many of these reformers. So Sayyid Mumtaz Ali did the same thing. So Quran is the most that book which is worshipped by everyone in the Muslim fraternity. So the verses, the kalma and various content, he got hold of it, and then he argued that see, the Quran is also saying that women has to be educated, education has to be given to women. So this was all going on. Okay. Now let me tell you one thing. See, I can tell you that women are weak. You'll be surprised I'm saying that. Physically. But they are not weak as far as determination is concerned, as far as the work ethics and culture is concerned, discipline is concerned. Women are always ahead of men. That I can tell you. If you break eight bones one time, that is how the women feel when she gives birth to a child. So women has the power, that the God has given to them. So now previously what would happen? That the education for the men and women were different. Girls and boys were different. Thinking that women are weak. Okay. Now if you see the students of Hindu Mahila Vidyalaya, 1875 I'm talking about, this was the first institution where the same learning, same syllabus, same content was learned by or studied by women and girls. Those boys in other schools were reading. Same content, same syllabus. Women write about women. We talked about Rashtra Sundari Devi, Amar Jeevan. So various other women also, they were reformers actually. They did a lot for child and especially women child. If you see here, these are the Begums of Bhopal. These Begums of Bhopal, I'm talking about early 20th century, that is 1900. So they also played a very important, vital and notable role in promoting the education among the girls, among the women. So they founded primary schools for girls at Aligarh. Aligarh is still an education hub, especially for everyone, means not only for Muslims, for everyone. You see here Begum Ruqayya Sakhawat. She is Sakhawat, she is not Shekhawat, okay? So Begum Ruqayya Sakhawat Hussain. Now she also started schools for Muslim girls, where in Patna and Calcutta, where the Muslim girls can read, teach and learn. The main thing was why Ruqayya is famous, because she was very critical about the conservative ideas of different religious leaders, and she was saying the religious leaders of all the faith, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, doesn't matter, they are responsible for why women are in this stage, why women are inferior, why women are treated inferior to men. So who is the reason? Religious leaders. Inferior they are being treated. So she was arguing like this, and it was very difficult at that time, you might imagine. So 1880s I am talking about. Women, I'll talk about Tarabai Shinde just now, and she used very strong words, At 1880 I am talking about, women, now they got educated, and most of the women, they were becoming doctors and teachers. Till now the doctors and teachers are the most favored job for girls by the parents and by girls themselves. So many of them started writing and publishing what is happening to the women. So in the society, what is the place of the women? How the women are treated? The women were writing very critical views on that. Okay, they were writing They were penning down all the situation of the society with respect to or with the perspective of women. Okay. Now here comes Tarabai Shinde. So Tarabai Shinde, he was also not sent to school. So he educated. She was educated at home only in Pune, previously Pune. And when she learned and got educated, she wrote a book called Stri Purush Tulna. Stri Purush Tulna. Stri is women, Purush is men, so Tulna is comparison or difference. So comparison between men and women. And she wrote very critically what are the social differences among men and women, how the society is treating men and women differently, especially the women. So I'll tell you what she wrote. I'll just go through it. First thing is, she is saying women, the life of women is as dear to her as anyone else, like you men. Okay, what have you thought about us? Once our husband dies, what will you do? From that day, we become inauspicious. What will you do? My husband dies, you will come with a barber, and that barber will shave off my head. And you know that for women, the hair of the women are most important, say body say feature. Now you are clearing my head just because my husband has died. All the good occasions, all the good festivals, all the good things like wedding, reception, and any occasion which you say as auspicious, we are not allowed to attend. Only married women can go. Because what will you are saying that if we are there, like the women who have become widow, you say that we will bring bad omen or we will be inauspicious. Is it a joke? Why all the restriction to us? Just because our husband has died and we don't have any fault. Right? So these are the strong words she used against the society, what is going on. Okay? So this Begum Sah Bhopal, Begum Rukaiya Sakhawat, and Tarabai Shinde, these were some women. And now comes the Pandita Ramabai. Now the main thing was why she was Pandita, because she was a scholar of Sanskrit and she used to talk very well. She used to argue very well. She said very big thing. She said you can't say this today also. She said in Hinduism, the Hinduism is actually oppressive towards women. The religion itself is oppressive towards women. And she wrote a book not about the women who are in lower caste. She wrote a book about the very distressed life, miserable lives of upper caste Hindu women. She is saying, her argument was, the upper caste Hindu women is facing so much, their lives are miserable. You can imagine about the lower caste people, lower caste women. So she founded a widow's home at Pune, and this home, widow's home, was specially for the widows who are not treated well, who are treated badly by the relatives. So these widows, they are taken into this shelter and they are properly trained, prashikshan, and they are trained like knitting and sewing, many other work, so that these women can support themselves economically, not dependent on another person or society. So now what will happen? There were Orthodox Hindus also and Muslims also. So there were many Hindu nationalists, Hindu Rashtravadi. They felt that Hindu women, they have started, because of the education, they have started adopting the Western ways. And this Western ways, Paschimi Sabhyata, This will corrupt the Hindu culture, and all the family values which we have, it will be finished, it will get eroded. These many Hindu nationalists thought, and this is not only with Hindus, there were Muslims also. The Orthodox Muslims or conservative Muslims, they also got worried that now women are taking the charge, women are getting educated, they are prospering in different sections. So they got worried. All these this liberal thoughts are not welcomed by the Orthodox people. So by the end of the 19th century, the women, because as I said, they were educated now, most of them, and they started writing books. Not all of them, but most of them. So they started writing books, they started editing magazines, they also founded schools and training centers. And also they set up women associations. And now when the women associations were being made, because now many women were in this association. If you see early 20th century, that is 1900 and above, they started making, or they formed political pressure groups. So these association, because there are so many women, they can push now. They can tell what to do for them. So they said we need female suffrage. Female suffrage means the voting rights to women. Because at that time, only the men, and especially the high caste or high leveled men can only vote. So they said no, everyone has to be given right. So female suffrage. They also said better health care. See, women need more health care than men. Everyone knows why. And then education. Okay. So most of the women, they joined the nationalist and socialist movement from the 1920s, because from 1920s this movement, Swatanta Abhiyan, Swatanta Andolan, freedom movement, this started. So I'm talking about the 20th century now. The big leaders, big giants, Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, they also started supporting these women's and pressure groups. And the demands simply were equality and freedom. So they also said, these two gentlemen and others, they said yes, equality and freedom has to be given to women. And they promised that you will get full suffrage, that is voting right for every women who have attained certain age after independence, because all are working for independence. So what they suggested to these women, that until we get the freedom, you have to concentrate on anti-British struggles rather than asking for the female suffrage, education, etc. Let us get freedom, and then it will be our power, and then we'll do what is required. Caste and social reforms. Now we'll be talking about big names here. Mr. Narayan we'll talk about, and Jyotirao Phule we have already talked about, but we'll still talk about him. So this we'll take in the next discussion. Okay, till then, thank you so much. Take care of yourself.